Hi, and welcome back to the Beyond Aromatics podcast, brought to you by the National Association for Holistic Aromatherapy. I'm your host, Savannah Rose. You can learn more about NAHA by visiting our website at naha.org or by finding us on Facebook at Aromatherapy Community or on Instagram at Beyond Aromatics. All right, enjoy the show. On this episode of Beyond Aromatics podcast, we have on special guest KG Stiles to talk about her upcoming book, The 7-Day Healthy Gut and Autoimmune Detox Program. KG is a metaphysician, holistic health educator, certified clinical aromatherapist, and consultant providing expert essential oil services since 1980. Her advice and services have included internationally famous celebrities, athletes, entrepreneurs, top executives, individuals, spa therapists, and hospitals. KG is the founder of Pure Plant Essentials Aromatherapy Company and has published hundreds of articles which have appeared in Massage Therapy Journal, Massage Today, Breast Cancer Wellness, Aromatherapy Today, and the NAHA Aromatherapy Journal. Her newest award-winning book, The Essential Oil Complete Reference Guide with over 250 recipes for natural wholesome aromatherapy, has won an IBBY Living Now Gold Medal and was a Nautilus and Indie Next Generation Book Award winner. KG currently lives in Ashland, Oregon, and is the NAHA Oregon Regional Director for Southern Oregon. Thank you, KG, for taking time out of your day to chat with me.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to our conversation.
So I mostly start off all of these asking the person I'm interviewing, how long have you been working in aromatherapy and what originally got you started in this line of research and study?
Well, I began my professional practice in 1980. My early interest, though, started when I was a child. I really noticed that my grandmother, whenever she was in her rose garden, I noticed how the scent of roses affected her. And she was always happiest when she was tending her rose garden. And that really impressed me. And also just the whole becoming aware how scent would affect people's mood, how they would shift and feel better. And as a child, I always wanted to help people feel good and make them happy. So that was just a sort of a natural interest of mine. And so I also noticed how beauty, especially the beauty of nature, being out in nature, being in natural surroundings, had a very positive effect, especially on my mom. So I spent my days in my childhood playing in the woods that surrounded our house, and we spent our summers by the seashore. So my mom, she was self-employed, and she went to beauty school, became a cosmetologist, and she put a great deal of attention and energy on creating beauty in our home environment and our dress. So all of that really impressed me and in my formative years. So, and as I said, I did when I was getting my professional training in the healing arts, aromatherapy was just a part of that training. I've always been a lifelong learner, and I graduated from the University of North Carolina, Wilmington campus, where my hometown is. And at 20 years of age, I became interested in the work of C.G. Jung. So I always wanted to know what made people tick. Mm-hmm. And when I was in school, I had a very high IQ. I tested out very high. And so a lot of the administrators, school teachers, they actually had me come before a panel of them who were asking questions. And they wanted to know what I wanted to be when I grew up, and I said a brain surgeon. And they asked why, and I said so I could change the way people think. So early on, I definitely had an interest in helping people to feel better and to maybe change the way they were looking at things in their life. So definitely I was very fortunate to work with, I was mentored by a Jungian trained therapist in archetypal psychology. back when I was 20, and I actually was a visiting student at the Jung Institute in Zurich, Switzerland.
Oh, wow.
And then later, a little bit later, I was introduced to the transformational healing arts while I was at Findhorn, Scotland, which is, I don't know if you've ever heard of Findhorn, but it's a rather renowned spiritual community and eco-village. And after I found out about transformation and being able to do transformational healing, that just really spoke to my heart. And I soon found myself in San Diego, California, which is one of the meccas of healing and consciousness studies. So then I actually completed the diploma coursework at Mueller College of Holistic Studies in San Diego, where I was personally mentored by Bill Mueller, who was the founder of the school. And the focus of the training was primarily on massage and body work, though, as I said, we integrated other things into the massage body work training, like aromatherapy. So I also completed an internship with Ed Mopin at the Institute of Psychostructural Balancing. So really got a big introduction into the body-mind connection. And, I ended up getting my state massage license in both Oregon and Hawaii, and did advanced certifications in a number of systems of energy healing. Energy medicine really especially interested me. I did trainings in Bowen therapy, the body talk system, and Reiki. And I also studied in college in England, where Dr. Rudolf Steiner's, I don't know if you've heard of him, he was a philosopher at the turn of the century. He developed different initiatives like Waldorf education, anthroposophical medicine, and biodynamic farming, which, are fairly world-renowned as systems of thought and training and lifestyle, that sort of thing.
So you have quite a background, and so you kind of brought all of this together, and you chose in your work today, and it also coming out with some of the work you've been doing on a new book topic that we are kind of going to talk about today, a 7-day healthy gut and autoimmune detox program. And I kind of just wanted to find out what gave you the idea, the inspiration to look into and research this topic.
Well, I've always had some devotion to doing the self-care and helping other people take care of themselves, and doing self-discovery work, and understanding more, how things worked and what was really going on. I had a natural curiosity for that. So I have a natural interest in meditation, and always, the body-mind connection with doing yoga and weight training, and integrating my body and mind in my own daily practices that I did. And I always, wanted to be a writer from early on. Always, loved working, developing stories, whether fiction, nonfiction, and I always loved doing research.
So what was some of the research you did in preparation for this topic?
So one of the things I didn't mention that is maybe important to our discussion is that I've had a lot of my own health challenges. I actually was born with tonsillitis, and within 2 weeks after I was born, the doctor said I was immune to getting chickenpox, but my brother had chickenpox, and I got chickenpox. Yeah, my mother was a smoker. I actually think that had an effect as far as my immune functioning as well as it could. And I was on antibiotics practically from the time I was born until I was about 13, 14 years of age. And then I did have I was diagnosed early on, like in my early 30s, with diverticulitis, which is a kind of a gut issue, kind of a leaky gut thing. We didn't call it that back then. We didn't really know much about gut, and it's just now we're realizing all the, the gut brain and how it's such a huge system for our maintaining our health and regaining our health if it becomes poor. I also early on I remember the last time when I was sick and had to have antibiotics, I would have shots of penicillin.
Yeah.
That I wasn't getting the attention I wanted, and I just became aware that I was getting sick to get attention, that there was a part of that at play. And when I realized, because I really didn't like being sick, and when I realized I was the payoff that I was wanting from getting sick, that I became aware that I was doing, I was not sick again for about 20 years. So so there is that body-mind connection, how we do have an influence through the use of our beliefs, our mind, for creating, manifesting things in our lives. So I, was astonished, and I have been doing a lot of research, and I have been astonished to find out that rosemary oil, since the 90s, has had 276 studies done. So traditional medicine is now, they've researched in so that they can do these systemic reviews through the system, so they can find out what research has been done. So, and now botanically based medicines are becoming the focus for developing new pharmaceuticals. They're kind of still developing the synthetic pharmaceuticals, but they're seeing real advantages to using botanicals. I mentioned to you prior to our conversation today that I discovered there are over 200,000 botanical plants that the medical establishment has marked as of interest to study for possible development of botanical medicines. And it's estimated that 60,000 of those plant species will become extinct by 2050. So there is a great urgency within the medical establishment to proceed quickly with their research. Mm-hmm. So it's another thing that I've found in my research is that they're calling it the Anthropocene age. It's a period in our geological man's walk upon the earth when human activity is considered the dominant influence on the climate and environment, which I thought that was also an interesting little aside note to make. So, and also they're spending quite a bit of time developing the whole concept of botanical gardens for scientific research. So, because of the concerns of conservation, developing botanical gardens is being widely discussed. Another thing that I've seen in research that is of interest is they're discovering that essential oils, when taken with pharmaceuticals, are helping the pharmaceuticals have more effect. Synthetic pharmaceutical alone, the essential oils are helping enhance the effects of drugs, and they're showing more effective. They're showing a synergistic effect, especially the alcohols and the monoterpenols, phosphoterpenols are the ones showing the most synergistic effect.
Can you tell us more about kind of what you discovered with the gut-brain connection and share some of this insight into why you can kind of fix a lot of underlying issues with a healthier gut?
Well, again, it is a lot of research now being done on the gut microbiome and microbiota. Until recently, the foods we eat were not really considered to contribute to our health by traditional doctors. And they're beginning traditional doctors are beginning to actually encourage their patients to take part in their own health care. Before that, they wanted total control over, they gave instructions, what they were to do. But now they're actually taking in information and asking questions about, the patient's lifestyle and their diet and things like that. So, however, even today, I was hospitalized. I hope we'll talk about this in a little bit, because I was on a longer, it was for some period, I was on a keto diet to help quell a histamine reaction I had. And when I was in there, they had this, menus that you can select what you wanted to get rather than just preset meals, which I think is an advance for hospitals to offer that. But on the menus were such items like pizza and brownies. So, we still have ways to go, and, most medical centers and hospitals with the foods they are administering to their patients in the hospital. So I think the most shocking thing that I've seen through my research, and now that traditional medical doctors and there's a tremendous research going into the gut microbiome and the microbiota, and how the studies are showing that modifications in the intestinal bacteria and inflammation play a role in development of many common chronic diseases. Studies are showing that leaky gut is associated with numerous autoimmune diseases like lupus, type 1 diabetes, multiple sclerosis, Crohn's disease, as well as chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, arthritis, allergies, asthma, acne, obesity, and even mental illness all are being associated with leaky gut and the gut microbiome. They are not calling it leaky gut at this point. They don't have that as a medical diagnosis. They do have a gut intestinal permeability as a symptom, some of these disease processes. But what they have found at the core of all the autoimmune diseases, each of them has in common, is an immune response that is being caused by systemic inflammation that leads the body to attack itself. So numerous studies have also shown essential oils to be especially effective as anti-inflammatory agents. So it's beginning to play a role. Essential oils, this is possibly one way that essential oils can play a role in promoting a healthy gut. The research is showing also that certain essential oils like oregano has been used, tested for help with the gut microbiome. I thought it was interesting. I always had a concern about using potent antimicrobial oils like oregano or thyme because I thought they would kill off the good bacteria. But the research from the study I read on oregano, that does not seem to be the case. It actually rids the gut of the bad bacteria and actually helps with reestablishment of good bacteria. So I'm wondering if it's similar to the effect of, say, garlic. Garlic does destroy the bad bacteria in the gut, but it is a prebiotic, so it helps to the healthy gut bacteria to thrive and flourish. So that's kind of one of my questions about why they're getting these good results with using essential oils for healthy gut microbiome.
So you mentioned that your book looks to address some myths about health and weight, and I was wondering if you can kind of go over some of those myths. You don't have to delve into too many secrets, but if you can kind of give us some examples or an example.
Well, I think a simple one is that eating fat makes you fat. I mean, what we're finding now is that sugar is what makes you fat. And one of the main reasons that is that sugar is high caloric. So when you dump that massive amounts of calories into your digestive system, it gets a surge of calories. It's not able to turn the sugar, to burn it fast enough or to utilize it, so it gets stored as fat. So, but quality fats like olive oil, they actually have been shown to help you burn fat. It's very hard. If you eat a whole foods diet with quality fats, it's very hard to put on weight. I discovered that when I went through my histamine intolerance and recovering from that, trying the keto diet, I lost a considerable amount of weight. I got down as low as 112 pounds. I'm not short. I'm like about 5'7", and now I have got my weight back up to almost 120, and that's just a whole foods diet, my weight training, and using natural whole foods and quality fats. Definitely, because I've eaten lots of olive oil, especially when on a keto diet, and it does not. I mean, you do burn a lot of fat when you're on a keto diet. So another myth, I think, is the myth of aging, disease, and death. I think that in my research, I've found that our natural lifespan for human beings is set at 125 years, which really, I was really surprised by that, because there are not very many centenarians on the planet. And
right.
You look at all of our technological advances in this modern age, why haven't we achieved a longer natural lifespan? So I'm wondering what part belief plays in our these processes of aging and disease and death. I think that our beliefs are things that we can believe things into our experience. When we change our beliefs, then we start seeing different results. So I feel that, that it's something it's something to be questioned, and not just assume that this is what is, because that's what the majority have been doing. You hear what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, thinking that you're middle-aged at like 35 is not beneficial to your mindset.
Exactly. And if you look at, when I was looking at age, they have age ranked as high as 55, and there's no age ranking after that. We don't have a generation for people between, say after 55. There's no category for, you kind of are out of the box. Yeah,
you just group all the quote-unquote old people together. I don't want to feel old at 55. That doesn't seem old.
Absolutely. Absolutely not. But they do start sending you, retirement. And myself, I don't ever intend to retire. I may change my methods and how I, my day-to-day routines and things that accommodate where my energy level is at as I age. But I guess the point is that there are a lot of myths, things we believe that maybe are not necessarily true, and we need to question those so that something new can happen. Well, I wanted to really stress how important exercise is. If you look at our ancestors, we come from hunter-gatherers, and they had very active lifestyles. They were in constant movement. And so one of the things we understand is that exercise is what helps create new mitochondria. And mitochondria is what really says a lot about the physical health of our body, our longevity, how we age, and how long we live, our health, status of our health. It's also interesting with the keto diet. I mean, you were going to ask about keto.
Yes, I am. I was going to ask you, and what if you think it's really effective?
Do you think it's effective? I actually, you might say I ended up doing keto intuitively as I was using my intuition, because I tried so many health experts and so many strategies for overcoming histamine intolerance, which was very uncomfortable. For me, my histamine intolerance manifests as rash, this painful rash on the top of both of my hands. And I attributed it to, for some reason, I just got my gut got really inflamed suddenly. And I had really focused, ever since having been diagnosed with diverticulitis in my early 30s, I've been fairly cautious about my diet. One of the things that was affected my gut that I didn't find out about, it was like 10 years after the fact, I had these mercury amalgam fillings taken out of my mouth. Soon after that, I started having these chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia symptoms. And I saw so many people and spent so much money over a 10-year period. I was even on disability. Fortunately, I had personal disability, so I was able to support myself and, have some, I could work part-time, but so I had some funds available to help me through this time. And it was when I switched to just using my intuition and just listening to my intuition what to do, that I started to get better. So I started trusting my intuition and relying more on my intuition at that point. And one day the light bulb went on intuitively that the role that mercury fillings, having them removed, must have played, because it was soon after. I just had never connected the dot. And so then I began in earnest to do detoxification and, using essential oils more in that way, and just different strategies I knew about, like juicing, that would help my body really increase my oxygen and my blood system. That would help my body and support my body in its detoxification. It was slow at first, but 6 months, a year later, I felt much better, and then it just continued to improve. And then that's why I say I use my intuition primarily as a way to, that I got involved in doing keto. I didn't know I was doing a keto diet, but in my research, I realized what I had intuitively gone to in my diet was called ketogenic diet. I do feel that it did help me, and I did recover a lot. I used olive oil a lot as one of my main fats, and it seemed to really soothe my gut. My gut really loved it. But in all of this, I also discovered that fasting actually is even better than doing a ketogenic diet for increasing your ketones.
Like
so your body,
intermittent fasting, or what kind of fasting?
Yes, intermittent fasting. You can increase your ketones up to 20-fold on intermittent fasting, whereas a ketogenic diet, I think it's like around fourfold. I usually do an 18-hour intermittent fast most days, and usually 2 days a week I'll go 24 hours. Yeah, and one of the wonderful things about the intermittent fasting is that the research shows that if you do 14 to 16 hours of fasting, it will induce autophagy. So autophagy is simply the body's way of cleaning out damaged mitochondria for it to regenerate and heal. It makes new, healthier cells as those die off. So it really encourages new mitochondria. So intermittent fasting up there with exercise are two of the best ways to really help to create new mitochondria, which is going to help you to live, research shows anyway, to help you live longer, be less susceptible to disease, that sort of thing.
I kind of just wanted to break down real quickly what a keto diet is. I know what it I know what it is and stuff, but we might have some listeners that are more curious about the specifics.
Yes, it's a low carbohydrate diet, and but you do carbohydrates, but they're the simple carbohydrates like with fresh vegetables. Also low sugar. You really watch how many complex carbs you take in. It's very limited, and then a very small amount of protein, basically. And you have a high fat. You're doing a lot of. I was doing as much as in tablespoons. I was doing like about 14 tablespoons of olive oil a day, and I would just drown my food in it. One of the downsides of being ketogenic is you have to really watch your electrolyte balance. And after a period of time, and of course that's going to be different for everybody. So I do, and I was aware of this, and I did things as precautions. So I was totally surprised when I wound up with an electrolyte imbalance, and I had to be taken to the emergency room.
Oh gosh.
So yeah, so that kind of curtailed by doing a ketogenic diet, but it did up my research so that that's when I found out about intermittent fasting and started using it as a strategy. And I've actually moved much quicker since doing intermittent fasting. Another thing that is really important is to make sure that you're alkaline. Being alkaline, the studies show that the bad bugs really can't survive in an alkaline environment. Being mindful of that can be helpful.
What ways do you use aromatherapy in diet and weight loss?
Well, one of the primary ways people get benefits from essential oils is just through inhalation. Certainly you can use them in a carrier for a skin application, and in very micro doses as food flavors. And generally, you would want to use the essential oils that have a GRAS, generally regarded as safe status with the FDA, for ingestion, and then really make sure you're doing microdoses with food when you're doing it. Generally, I say 1 drop per one cup of olive oil, say, that kind of micro use as a food flavor. And certainly one of the concerns, like, for instance, with Crohn's, or even with addictions to food, we have obesity issues in this country that are epidemic. Using essential oils to curb sweet tooth and food cravings for carbs, that sort of thing, sugar and carbs, can be used. I know I had a Crohn's client who, she was, as much as pain as she had so much addiction. And this is true of what I found with other of my Crohn's clients. They seem to have food addiction, so that no matter the consequences of the pain it puts them in, they'll do their addiction, whatever it is. Essential oils have been very helpful for them to curb their appetite for these unhealthy foods that will trigger inflammation and maybe a bout of Crohn's.
So the first part of your book topic is the 7-day healthy gut, and the other part is talking about autoimmune detox program. And I kind of wanted you to discuss how the gut and autoimmune system can be related. Yes,
well, that's what the research is showing, and that is that they are related. They're, as I said, a lot of the autoimmune diseases like Crohn's, as well as some of the other things like chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, and such, are all being shown to be connected to the gut and leaky gut, the gut permeability. And there are over 23 million Americans who have been diagnosed with autoimmune disease at this point. That's more than heart disease, cancer, and diabetes combined. So the core issue with autoimmune disease, as I said, is systemic inflammation. And certainly there's certain essential oils that are known to be great for anti-inflammatory action, like helichrysum and the blue oils, German chamomile, blue tansy, blue yarrow, all are very good with, curtailing inflammation in the body. So, gut inflammation, many of the gut's functions are actually compromised when you have gut inflammation. And also, your ability to detox, your body naturally detoxifies itself. But if you have a compromised gut microbiome, detoxification, inflammation is a much higher priority for your body to shut off inflammation rather than to detoxify. So, if you've got inflammation, it's first going to focus on getting that inflammation down so that you don't have the mitochondrial damage, right? Mm-hmm. And also then a lot of our hormones are made in the digestive, the intestines. So, our hormonal balance is also compromised, as well as nutritional deficiencies can develop. And intermittent fasting, I think, one of the great things about it, besides the autophagy, is that digestion is one of the greatest consumers of energy for us in your body. So when you take a break from eating, your gut has a chance to rest and do some repair work.
This book coming out, it looks to cover, you talk about things like diet. I'm guessing you talk about things like keto, and you talk about your own healing path and some exercise and aromatherapy. Is there any other things that your book looks to address?
No, I think those are it. And also, I do show people some things they can do with aromatherapy using it in carrier for, acupoints or meridian therapy as another alternate way of helping to promote, balance and getting, turning off inflammation, that sort of thing. I did want it to slip my mind. I really want to give a shout out for eating, if you're doing a dairy, you're doing eggs, that you purchase pasture raised, that, milk, yogurt that has been produced from pasture raised. They've only had grass. They've only been grass fed and not introduced grains. Grains are very high in lectins. And lectins, I found there's a real correlation with leaky gut and the grains. And it's just hard for the gut, even if they're soaked prior. They can be hard on the gut, for some people more than other people. So I think it is individual to you, and you have to check it out for yourself, what works well for you. And I think the book helps people in that 7-day program. They get a chance to have a trial run on how this is going to work for them.
So since we're coming to the end of the episode, I was going to leave it to you. Do you offer any classes or workshops? And your book's coming out, if you want to, I don't know if you have a date for it or anything yet, but anything you want to share with anybody and how they can find you?
Yes. Yes, you can find we'll put links below this YouTube, right? So people can just click on the link. You can find out about my courses and classes at my KG Learning site, and to find out about my Pure Plant Essentials. We have a small boutique of organic and wild-crafted essential oils and custom-crafted formulas. There's a link for that store, our Pure Plant Essentials store. And then there's a link for my own personal website where you can, and they're all linked together. So if you go to one, you can find your way to the other.
Okay.
So, and I am offering a 20% discount on my aromatherapy and healing with essential oils courses and classes through the end of August 31st. And you'll just use the code. We'll have a link that you can just click on. It will automatically apply the coupon for you, but you can also use the coupon code NAHA-LOVE, one word, to get your discount.
Oh, that's awesome. And check out the links below in either of these platforms. that you get your podcast on will have links to KG's stuff so you can find her. KG also has a previous book out. I believe it's the
Essential Oils Complete Reference Guide.
Yes.
Over 250 recipes for natural, wholesome aromatherapy.
Yes, and we have that on our website, and we will put a link to that as well.
Well, thank you so much, Savannah, for having me and talking. I hope I didn't go off on too many tangents so that people are able to follow.
That was great. Thank you so much for being on the show and taking time out of your day to figure out this platform we use to do podcasts on, but also speaking to me about this subject. And there's a lot of research out there about, I know the gut-brain connection and, keto diets as well. And I know you're coming up with some good stuff too and looking at it from a more holistic way and natural modalities way. So stay on the lookout for this book coming out.
And my books always include further reading and resources so that you can find out more there. I really like to provide, and this new book, the new books I'm doing also have footnotes with links so you can actually check the sources for the research.
Great. And KG, I hope we get to have you coming out for the NAHA 2020 conference, maybe even as a speaker on some of the research you've been doing.
Well, thank you. That would be great.
All right, everybody. Thanks again, and join us next time on the Beyond Aromatics podcast.